I just polled our associates and I found out there are three main sticking points that are keeping PhDs from being hired. Okay, I've talked to a lot of PhDs. These are the three biggest sticking points. You're likely stuck at one of these points. We're going to talk about them. Make sure you watch the whole video, because when I was in graduate school, I faced all three of these sticking points. I got through one, and then I got stuck at the second one. I got through that one, got stuck at the third. It took me months and months and months to get a job, over a year. Okay, I don't want that to happen to you, so make sure you watch the entire video. We're going to be talking about these sticking points and how you need to structure your job search to get hired. Okay, first, I'm going to give you an overview of the overall problem. The problem is that most PhDs execute their job search backwards, and it's because we still have an academic mindset. We've been trained in academia to spend most of our time writing, right? We write papers and grants. There are reviewers that read through your paper or grant, and if they all accept it, right, maybe there's some changes, you get to move forward to the next stage. So we think a job search works like this, but instead of papers and grants, we have resumes and LinkedIn profiles, right? So we think that's the key to getting hired in industry. Most PhDs spend the majority of their time on their resumes and LinkedIn profiles, okay? This is the job search path that most PhDs follow. It's wrong. They spend the majority of their time, so the size of the circle indicates how much time they're spending on each of these components, okay? So they spend most of their time on their resume, their LinkedIn profile. Maybe you're there, right? Maybe you're uploading resumes online, not hearing anything back. Maybe you've made some changes to your LinkedIn profile, but employers aren't contacting you. And if they're not contacting you in today's job market, there's a big problem with your profile, okay? So we keep just writing and rewriting these and hoping that our writing is going to get us hired, because in academia, our writing is what leads us to advance our academic career. It does not work this way in industry. Next, PhDs start thinking about interviews, because we're used to, defending our thesis. We're used to presenting our data. So we say, okay, of course a job search is the same way. We write something, if everybody reviews it and it passes, I get called in for a thesis defense. If I answer all the questions correctly or defend it correctly, I get hired. It doesn't work this way either. Stop spending all of your time in these two areas. And then very few PhDs actually create a job search strategy, right? Most PhDs don't even do this. Very few actually network. When we do live events, we ask people how many off-campus events they've gone to in the last month. Maybe 5 to 10% have gone to one, okay? Yet all of them are uploading resumes all the time, not hearing anything back. And then nobody is doing informational interviews or figuring out which positions they actually fit into. I'm guessing if you're watching this, you either don't know where to start in your job search, which means you don't know which positions are a good fit for you, or you've been uploading resumes and not hearing anything back. That is okay, because you're not alone. It's normal in one sense, okay? It's not okay, but it's normal. We need you to change your strategy. You have to flip this completely backwards, so you're spending most of your time not on your resume or LinkedIn profiles, okay, but most of your time here, right, on figuring out your position fit. So most of your time needs to be figuring out which jobs are good for you. How do you do that? By setting up informational interviews. So what's an informational interview? This is just where you interview someone who has a job you're interested in or who's working in a field that you're interested in, asking them how they got into that position and if they enjoy it, what their career trajectory is like. It can be a 3-minute phone conversation. We have an ebook on this. If you just Google Informational Interviews, Cheeky Scientist, you can get the ebook. But in short, you have to figure out what positions you're interested in, narrow it down to at least 2, 3, 4, 5 at the most. Okay, at least understand what positions are available out there for PhDs, because this is one of the 3 biggest sticking points. Most PhDs end up stuck here. They don't know what positions are out there. They don't know what positions are a good fit for them, so they don't even start their job search. You need to be spending a lot of time here. This means connecting with people, networking, getting to know people so that you can talk to them, not sitting down with a legal pad of 100 questions with a person to do an informational interview, but talking to them on the phone or even by email or LinkedIn message, just asking them a few questions about their position, what they like. Everybody wants to give you their opinion. Everybody wants to be interviewed about their job. They don't want to be asked to help you get a job. They don't want to be asked to do your work for you, but they'll happily give you their opinion, their advice. They'll happily talk about themselves, okay, which makes it easy for you. Start setting up these informational interviews. Start figuring out which positions are out there and which would fit your career goals. This is the most important thing to do, and that's the only way to get past that first sticking point. Number 2 is closely tied to number 1 here. Okay, this is where you're going to spend most of your time, especially in the beginning. Number 2 is networking. Okay, this might mean going to off-campus networking events, not just events with other PhDs, where you're networking with PhDs that you normally network with who also want jobs, okay, but going to events where maybe you're the only PhD there, which means you're going to meet people who don't have PhDs, and they're going to be impressed that you have a PhD. They're going to remember you, right? So that when their friend or their partner who's working in a STEM job mentions a job opening, they're going to think of the only PhD they ever met. Okay, the point is, you can go to PhD networking events, but don't limit yourself just to PhD networking events, because networking and connections and job referrals happen in a variety of ways. But most PhDs get stuck here. This is that second sticking point. Maybe they start to figure out what they want. They set up some informational interviews, but they feel uncomfortable networking and reaching out. Go to some live events. Don't spend hours there. Most networking events are 3 hours long, not because they want you to stay for 3 hours, but so as many people can drop by as possible after work, right? Everybody has a different work schedule. You literally just need to go for 15 minutes. Have 3 5-minute interactions, get 3 people's business cards. That is a great networking experience, but make sure you understand the difference between connecting and networking. Connecting is when you meet somebody, you get their business card. Networking is what happens during the follow-up process when you build a professional relationship, and that's the only way to getting job referrals. Most PhDs never get a job referral, even though it's the fastest and most proven way to get hired, because they don't network, they don't follow up with people online afterwards to build a relationship. How do you follow up? Send a message to the person. Even if you haven't met them yet, you can reach out and connect the first time, but then keep following up by adding value, showing your appreciation as a colleague. Read their LinkedIn profile, compliment their work, congratulate their career progress. Maybe they were promoted in the last year. Okay, ask their opinion and advice. These are simple ways to network. Number 3, same here, job search strategy. Most PhDs don't do this. You have to create a strategy, right? There's an easy way to do this. I'm going to write down strategy here. The easiest way to do this is just to create an Excel spreadsheet. I'm guessing if I asked you how many of you have 10 or more Excel spreadsheets of data on your computer, most of you would say you do. Most of you probably have more than 100, if not hundreds. Okay, but if I asked you how many spreadsheets or documents or notes that you have related to your job search, you'd probably say 0, maybe 1. Okay, you have to start creating a strategy, documenting your efforts so your job search is organized. This is a great way to show professionalism too, because you don't want to just be randomly connecting and following up with people. You want to have a clear process. Think of it as a protocol for your job search. All you have to do for this is to create a spreadsheet with 5 columns. The first column, the companies you're interested in. The second column, any job openings at that company. Third column, any contacts you know at those companies. And the fourth and fifth column are the last time you connected with the person at that company, and the next time you are going to connect with that person, respectively. Okay, the point is just keep track of your job search efforts and change your thresholds. Most PhDs go after 1 job lead at a time, try to see it all the way through until they get stuck, and then if that doesn't work out, they start all the way over. And so going after each job lead takes weeks, if not months. You got to change your thresholds. We see people get hired when they have 30 to 40 rows filled out on that job search spreadsheet, which means you got to go after 30 to 40 leads at once. That's the kind of effort it takes in your job search. Here, very little time needs to be spent interviewing, okay? Very little time. Actually, interviewing overall, when it comes to a site visit, will take very little time. You might go on, maybe you might get invited to 5 site visits, right, overall. And so you're spending a day there, but compared to the rest of your job search, it's a very small amount of time. You have to prepare for it, but most site visits you can prepare for a day or 2 in advance. Okay, so don't start preparing for this until you actually get the site visit. Make sure you're doing everything else correctly. And then finally, guess what this small circle is? This is your resume. The least amount of time should be spent on your resume and getting your LinkedIn profile correct. Because once you get your resume template correct, your LinkedIn profile correct, the only additional time you'll spend on any of those things is targeting your resume for every individual position, which just means you'll tweak the keywords, which will take you 15, 20 minutes at most, and make that resume specific for the position. Very little time should be spent here. And you can get our free resume template by going to phdsgethired.com now or later, and we'll send you our resume template and our resume guide. But this is how your job search process needs to change. Okay, first sticking point, figuring out position fit. Overcome this by setting up informational interviews. Second sticking point, networking, right? You have to network rather than just upload resumes. This will lead to getting referrals. And a lot of people end up stuck here. They network, but they don't get referrals, and it's because you don't have a strategy. So the only way to surpass or overcome this sticking point is to create a strategy and follow up with people. Remember, connecting is what happens when you meet somebody for the first time. Networking is what happens during the follow-up process. That's how you overcome this. This is how a PhD level job search actually works. Hopefully this helped you understand where you should be allocating your time. Hopefully it gave you more of a bird's eye view of the overall sequence of getting hired. And I know it's tough. If you learn something new here, right? If you learn something new here, type in you learned something new in the comments below. I'd be interested to know if you did learn something new. If you learned a lot of things new and you had kind of a paradigm shift here, you're not alone, okay? This is the paradigm shift that I had when I was in graduate school. It was very difficult for me to understand the process of getting hired in industry. I was stuck here for a long time. I had no idea what positions were out there in industry. I had no idea what I'd be a good fit for. I didn't know how to set up informational interviews. I had an industry network of zero. If that's you, it's okay. I realized for me that it would have been very helpful to have a mentor or a network that would help me get past this. And if you're thinking that way too, Cheeky Scientist, myself, our team would love to be your mentors. We would love to help you get past these sticking points. If you want to learn more about how we can help you, go to cheekyscientist.com/association-learn-more. That's the long URL. The short way to remember it is just go to phdsgethired.com, put in your name and email. That's how we know that you're looking to be mentored. You want help in transitioning. And if that's you, I look forward to connecting with you. Otherwise, I want you to remember your value as a PhD no matter what you decide to do, and start thinking and acting like a successful industry professional.